We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Taste with you well, you've gone sour. You want the world plus everything, but you won't work an hour. And now your questions are guilt creeping, and you're going buying flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. So shut your mouth.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is the professionals, although before we came on, Stu said we should call this one the unprofessionals because the lads have been out on a session. How many hours, Stu?
9, I think.
Classic. And you started with a few Jaeger bombs. You started with a few Jaeger bombs for your breakfast to get yourself in good spirit for the Dubai Mags. And Mitch, just a quick one on that. We did obviously do the show yesterday morning with Julie from the Dubai Mags. It's had some great views and some great feedback, Mitch.
The feedback's been lovely. The feedback within the Dubai Mags WhatsApp group's been really positive as well. I think everybody's appreciative of Julie taking the time to get the message out there. And I think she did bloody well. Like you said, it was probably the quietest video I've ever done with.
You didn't say a word. It was funny.
Barely.
Anyway, thank you to Julie.
Do you know what it is, though? That's the beauty of it. Is instead of having to drum up people and get people together and try and get people to one spot, now really with other people with the energy driving it and what we've built, I just direct traffic. People come to me and they say, well, where do we go? We'll go there. And it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It is fantastic stuff. Thanks, Julie, for coming on. Enjoy your match today at the Dubai Mags bar. And obviously, we've got a game to talk about. So let's talk about the game first, because I just feel like we've been stuck in a rut this week talking about the same things. And that can happen on podcasts, especially this one when, things are at a level where people want to grumble about. Get your questions in for the lads if you want to ask them anything. We're going to do 90 minutes. We'll be finished at 11:30. So, let's look at the game first of all. This is a fixture which, as I've already said on here this week, it's surprising how few times we've played Bournemouth, Stu, in our history. This will only be like the 11th time we've played them, because obviously Bournemouth have been in lower divisions. But we went down there last season. Dominic Solanke, probably had one of his better games, scored a brace, beat us 2-0. It was the right result. But, Newcastle really going down there probably with a bit more optimism, and certainly with a few fitter, a few more options, because the players we've got a few more fit players. But it's, it's a chance to, although the performance wasn't great last week, it's a chance to win 2 games in a row, and some surprising results yesterday would already give us a little advantage on some of those teams would consider rivals, Stu.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity to get 6 points out of 6, and it's not going to be easy. History tells us that over the last couple of seasons, there seems to be a bit of a bogey ground, and yet Steve Bruce went there and won 4-1. So we'll have to look at it and think. I always try to keep things very, very simple, and I think, how many of their players would get in our team? So for me, the answer to that would be none. And then it's just down to attitude. And if we go out and win the little battles over the pitch and earn the right to dominate the game, then what should be a difficult game could become an easier game. But as long as they're prepared to roll their sleeves up, and having Bruno as captain, I think it's focused them, because he has been occasionally went missing in away games, but now as the captain, he's going to have to start leading by example. And I'm sure he's more than capable of doing that. And that will then inspire the rest of them. So I expect at the end of the game, we'll come away with 3 points. And going forward, we've got a great opportunity to get ourselves, before the Champions League games start, to be right up there, and then just wait for other teams to drop points around us. So today it's too early to say it's a pivotal game of the season, but it's a great opportunity to put a marker down, and I think we will. Yeah,
time to put a marker down, and yeah, it's a start of a big week. 3 games in a week. Where we've got to. We got used to that last season with the European trips, Mitch. But yeah, 3 games in a week. Cup game coming up, of course, midweek, and then Tottenham Hotspur next Sunday. But yeah, this trip to the South Coast is our longest of the season as well.
Yeah, and I guess 3 games in a week means shares bands done in a week as well, which is an unusual situation. Look, we're looking, comparing seasons, and we're already doing it. And Eddie did it in the press conference. What was missing last season versus what was there the season before? And this kind of game was last season one of our Achilles heels. We didn't take advantage of going away to teams like Bournemouth and really pressing home. In fact, we were awful down there last season. And so I think it's not about just laying a marker down. It's showing Eddie, okay, we've shown you we've got the fight and the grit still. Now, can we add a little bit of class to that this week? That didn't really show in the first 20 minutes of the game when we had 11 men. So for me, it's a real opportunity. 3 points will tell us a lot about the morale in the camp and how happy everybody is together. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. It's the 3 points. It's the performance on the pitch. That's all that matters. And everything else is white noise and drama when focusing on getting the business done. But last season we didn't get the business done. Some very, very important. Some important times, and we missed out on points in very winnable games. So I think if we can demonstrate we've got that bit more back, and like Stu, I'm interested to see how Bruno performs wearing the armband, because he seems really quite buoyed by being given the armband. He seems quite excited, like he's got, and I think he's one of those players who, when he's up for it like that, you get more out of him, even on an off day. So yeah, I think not just about putting a marker down, it's about showing that everything that we know they can do is still in there.
Yeah, gutted I can't get down there. Bournemouth is one of the few grounds I've never been to. Again, on a weekend when I couldn't make it. Got me ticket for Wolves, looking forward to that. But disappointed not to be able to get down there today. But saw some Newcastle fans out on the drink at 10 o'clock last night and getting the bus at 2:30.
That's brilliant.
Fantastic. So safe trip to everybody going down, anybody watching on the bus now on the way down. Safe trip, enjoy it, and make sure you sing your heart out for the lads. Lots of questions coming in, so let's get into the chat. Dylan, I like this one. Dylan LP says, "Morning lads. When Wilson's fit, if we don't get a right winger this summer, would you put Isaac on the left, Wilson in the centre, and Gordon on the right?" It's an interesting one, that, because I don't think I've heard anybody suggest that at all. And I guess we can chuck Barry's in as well at the same time, because he says he gets the feeling that with Miggy looking like he'll stay, that we won't be busting a gut for a right winger. How do we feel about that? So 2 questions there for the price of one, Stu. What do you think of Dylan's suggestion, though, about potentially putting Isaac on the left and Wilson in the centre and Gordon on the right if all 3 are fit?
It's an option, but I don't think it's an option that they would opt for, because simply it nullifies Isaac from his best position, Gordon from his best position, just to accommodate Wilson. And I think history tells us more often than not that even if they did try, it would only be for 2 or 3 games before one of them got injured. I think Isak's quite clearly number one, and Wilson will be staying, and his role, whether he likes it or not, will be similar to Harvey Barnes, not to be an impact sub. And by doing that, that'll get the best out of him and hopefully keep him fitter for longer. Regarding Gordon, he's got clear England aspirations, and for me, even from a Scotland point of view, there was a clear case for him to be playing in just about every game in the Euros, and he didn't. But if he started playing on the right, then he's up against Saka and Palmer, and where on the left, he's got an option. He's got a potential to get in the England team. So I don't think he'd want to move from the left. So I think we'll keep it as it is, and I still think we'll get a right winger before the window closes anyway.
All right, Mitch, it's an interesting suggestion. I mean, we've all got ideas, and ultimately it's what Eddie Howe decides to do. But it's a nice suggestion by Dylan, I guess. We've all thought of that. I mean, quite a few of us would like to see him at times play the two of them up front.
It's an option if we need to chase a game, or if we need to do something different. My combination to try would be a combination of Barnes and Gordon with Isak in the middle, and let Barnes and Gordon swap, and let them one go left, one go right, and then swap them at different times of the game, depending on how the fullbacks are doing. And so I think that's a combination that I would be curious to see. I think getting a right winger in isn't necessarily dependent on outgoings, but I do think I think we need to see some outgoings. People are wondering how Chelsea are spending money. People are wondering how Brighton are spending money. Look at what they've sold. That's the bottom line. Where we are hindered is we don't sell very many players, and the ones we do sell don't necessarily sell at full value, or we're queried about the value that we're selling them at. And so that's part of what hamstrings us in that situation. But I don't think it's necessarily dependent. I still think we will be busy right up to the last hours of the window, because I've got again, based on one thing that Eddie said a couple of weeks ago about seeing which players become available, and what deals may be able to be done. I mean, obviously he's not going to say that again now, because he tells me he's now a step removed from it all. But is that all smoke and mirrors? Who bloody knows, really? What I do think is I think we'll be active right up to the last minutes of it, and some value may become available. Particularly, you look at Chelsea's situation with how many players they've got, and a manager who's clearly ostracised some of those players already and decided he doesn't want them, and he doesn't want them around. Some of those will be paid off at that. And that doesn't put Chelsea in the driving seat in terms of value. They've got to shift some of those players, and some of those players will want to go, and some of those players will be very pissed off because they've been told by the manager, don't want you around here. That doesn't put the selling club in a strong position at all as the window ticks down. So, yeah, I don't think it's necessarily dependent on Miggy going, but I think that was what the club would like. Does that mean a right winger will definitely not come in? No. But I think, the transfer window is something we'll probably discuss in a bit anyway.
Yeah, well, it's a big week. Closes this week, thank the Lord. We will obviously hope that Newcastle can do some business before the window closes. David says, good to have Stu back. The channel missed a positive view last time out. Great show, lads. The Amigos got some stick on Friday. I don't think it was that negative, and most people in the chat agreed. Some people seem to take it as negative, and I do think that people who are saying about us misinterpreting Eddie Howe and making it sound negative rather than positive, I think some people watching this show were watching us misinterpreting what we were saying, thinking that we were being negative and not positive. So it can happen with everybody. If we can do it, you can do it, I would say. But yeah, Stu is Mr. Positivity on here. as opposed to Darren on a Monday being Mr. Negativity. John says, we've all heard of the leadership. This was a question actually that came in the other night, and I didn't get time to go around it on the Amigos. And he said, we've all heard of the leadership group, but what do they do? And do they have any influence on or off the pitch? Well, I would say the answer to that is yes, Stu, isn't it? I mean, we've heard of these kind of player committees, probably going back into the, I think probably the earliest reference to the one in recent times I can remember is when, Mike Ashley was the owner and we had Joey Barton, Kevin Nolan, Alan Smith, Steve Harper, and they were arguing the toss about players' bonuses. I think that was probably, the first time it became a bit of a thing. And we seem to have had one in the forefront ever since. But they can have a positive influence and certainly lead the dressing room. There are going to be characters on the Stu.
Yeah, I think the key word is empowerment. And what you have is a group where for me, it's a go between the management and the rest of the players, where if someone's got a gripe, they could go to one of the leadership group. And more often than not, it's senior pros, and their job with it being the leadership group is to lead by example, and it's to show the rest of the squad, look, you have to live your life properly, and this is your commitment to your profession, and this is how to do it. And then it gives the younger ones something to aspire to be. And they're chosen very carefully. And the fact that Bruno's been put into it, for me, it cements the fact that he's staying. And I think it's an absolutely right call for a captain. I know I've seen other people saying it should still be Trippier. Trippier is more than likely going to leave. And we've been saying that since January. And even if he was staying, is he going to play every game? Probably not. So for me, a captain has to be someone that's on the pitch. And Bruno proved last year that his availability was exceptional. And it settles the squad down. It might be a bit of a, didn't expect that out of the blue initially. But behind the scenes, he seems to be very well liked. We've seen the images when he arrived in Japan and how he was welcomed. And he's a big part of the new Newcastle, if that makes sense. And he's bought into it. And for someone like that, he has the respect of all the players, not just for his ability, but his attitude and his desire to play for Newcastle and advance the team. And as I said before, that he's going to be playing every game. So you need some stability. You don't want to know who's your captain this week, who's your captain that week. And I really believe he will grow into the role. And for the next 2 or 3 years, he could be pivotal in our success that I believe is coming.
Yeah, I mean, the leadership group, Mitch, is, like I said, something which, we've heard a lot about over the last probably 15, 20 years at Newcastle. There's always been leadership groups. I mean, probably going back to the days of the 70s when the players bloody more or less went on strike to get the manager out.
Yeah.
There's always strong characters in the dressing room, captain, vice captain, club captain, but obviously other people who have their say as well.
I think very much in the modern game, the talk about needing leaders all over the pitch. And it's not just all over the pitch, it's in the background as well. It's in the dressing room. It's around the training ground. And for different reasons. But also because the modern game sees much more rotation. You're not going to see a team win a championship having played 14 players like you did, in the 70s and 80s. You can't necessarily have a club captain who will be on the pitch captain for 95% of the games that season. That's going to be reasonably rare occurrence these days. And so you need that ability to swap the armband around without somebody taking the hump as part of it. But also, if you've got more leaders, you've got more ability for people to reach out. You've got more ability for players to put an arm around a young'un with a problem, or put an arm around somebody who's having difficulty settling in the region. It's something, historically we've not always done and managed very well. And coordinating with the manager and getting the message through to the players on all levels, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, and on a personal and on a professional basis, that sort of pastoral care that's often missing in a football club. That's the kind of thing a leadership group could be delivering. And you get the feeling that's the kind of thing our leadership group, with the players involved in it, indeed are delivering. And so, again, it comes back to wanting to see that bit of bite, that bit of nastiness, that bit of grit. That all comes from having, leaders everywhere.
Yeah, good points. Well, there you go. Hope that answers the question with regards to that. And yeah, Barry, you're right. All teams have had it. The 80s Liverpool team, Hansen, Dalglish, Thompson, Neil Souness, all captains on the pitch. Alan's right as well. Motivators, negotiators, in between us. We had them at the pit, union reps. So there you go. But yeah, lots of comments, lots of questions coming in. We'll try and get through as many as we can today. Don't forget as well, I just want to thank everybody. You will get sick of hearing us thanking people for subscribing to the fanzine, which we have decided to do this year. It's going to be the only paper fanzine for Newcastle United fans this season. It's called NUFC Matters Fanzine. The first issue will be posted to you on the 1st or 2nd of October. United Group Travel have kindly agreed to sponsor the 4 magazines this season. We've got a whole host of articles from lots of the people who do the shows on NUFC Matters, and 1 or 2 from those who don't. And the design has been done by Rob Maltman, who does our flyers. Big shout out to Rob. Thank you very much for doing that. He's done that for free as well, which means that the subscription of 20 quid for 4 issues is basically all being able to be donated to Dementia Matters. So the aim for me is to sell all 200 copies. We're only going to print 200. It'll be a limited edition, 200 print run. We've sold 37 subscriptions so far. On average, on our shows, we have 2,000 people watching each show. Some, like this and the Amigos, do over 4,000 each week. If we can just have 200 of you going to newcastlelegends.com, hitting the shop button and paying for a subscription, we'll be able to pay this out. And it means we'll be able to send all of that lovely money to the Dementia Matters. It's a Newcastle-based charity, and that's what we'd like to do. So sorry for going on. You'll get sick of us going on, and I'll go on and on until we sell all those subscriptions. So newcastlelegends.com is where you can go and subscribe. And if you want to submit something for it, get in touch with me at the Facebook group or Facebook page, or at X at Steve Wraith, and we'll see if we can squeeze an article in for you. But it is getting a bit chock-a-block. Gibbo and Supermac are both doing articles as well. Gibbo confirmed yesterday. So it's fantastic. Great stuff. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved with this project. And Mitch has just put something in there, a bit of breaking news. What's the breaking news, Mitch, about Kieran Trippier?
The Mail are running a story that doesn't name the player, saying it's a Premier League player who's a household name and was in the England squad in Germany, has been dumped by his missus after she caught him bringing a woman back to the house through the Ring doorbell camera. And I've seen those pictures that are connected to the story before, and that were from an Instagram account who claimed to have slept in Trippier's bed. I remember that story. So for me, they're not hiding it very well in the Mail story. Amongst the story, they're saying that the England players were calling him Ringo while he was away in Germany with the squad behind his back. It certainly would explain why his head was all over the place.
It's unfortunate, and again,
that is indeed him. It's alleged.
Yeah, but, all alleged. Yeah.
I don't think it takes anybody with a half a memory of the things that were floating around when accusations were being made. It's not hard to put it together.
Yeah, as Mitch says, it's alleged. We went through this on Friday with your dad saying something similar, and it's unfortunately, I think we all have heard the rumours. There was lots of stuff flying around pre-Christmas, of course, on WhatsApp. Not the most reliable source, but when newspapers start running stories, you're worrying, you're a bit concerned. I think we all feel that there's something a little bit more to come out, I would guess, about the whole situation. it's never nice when these things happen, but let's hope that can be dealt with properly. And, the main concern for us is the club and the team, no matter what comes out, I guess, about any player, if they've given the level of commitment and the level of football and effort and determination and skill that Kieran Trippier has given to Newcastle, I hope that if it is him who is involved in that he still gets our best wishes, because
I think the club need to do all they can to support him as a human being.
Yes, exactly. He's been very, very, a very, very important part of this transition. That's the big thing, and been a very big part of this transition, and every bit as important as Brian Kilcline was under Keegan in the 90s, no doubt about it. But we will move on from that. A couple of questions people asking. Try and subscribe, and Steve couldn't find anywhere to leave my address. David, don't worry, if you can't find that, just still subscribe. I will email you back. And I'll get your address off you, mate. So don't worry about that. And yes, Alan, get Julie to have an input into the fan team. We've got to get some women's perspectives. We don't have any female contributors yet. So if there's anybody who would like to do that, well, that would be great.
I've just had somebody message me on Twitter saying we should get Julie involved with one of the shows.
Yeah, 100%. That would be great. Can we have a fixture list in the first edition, please? I don't think we're allowed to reproduce the Premier League fixture list. If my memory serves us right from the last time I did a fanzine, I think we've got to wrap over the knuckles for doing it, Craig. Plus, the problem of putting a fixture list in is by the time it comes to October and you put a fixture list in, it'll have changed with the TV announcements. So I think the answer will have to be no on that, but there we go.
We could do make our own.
We could do make your own.
All the teams' names, and we'll put a calendar in. Yeah. And then you cut the team names out and get a Pritt stick and glue them into the place.
You could stick Adam Pearson's fixtures in. He's creating a football team. I've just bumped it and looked at one of his latest podcasts this morning before I came on air, and he's setting up a football team. So I'm going to watch that with interest, because maybe when Mitch and Stu's across, we'll have to have a friendly against them, lads. If they do manage to get a team, and then UFC 11, I'll put Mitch up top, Stu and me at the back. Stu, we'll have to have Steve Hasty. Where will we put Steve Hasty?
On the wing.
He's a left wing.
Yeah, Hasty on the wing. There we go. I'll have to have a look at the fans forum. Ian will be at the bar. He'll have to take the subs. Darren will just be complaining all the time, so I want him as far away as possible. He can play up front with you, Mitch, as far away as possible from me, from Darren. Anyway, do I think they'll bring any new players in? I think there'll be new players in, yeah, Dave, 100%. Yeah, I do. I am as positive as Stu about we'll bring people in. Who will bring in and what positions we'll bring in, I really don't know. But yeah, I am still confident we'll bring people in. And lots of people talking about the captaincy. We touched on it a little bit this week, and Stu's touched on a little bit of this morning. Andy Ford said, given Bruno the captaincy is a bit of a risk. I prefer it if he just focused on his own game. He can be too emotional at times. Burn or Shaw are the obvious choices for me. Do the lads agree? It's done now. Bruno's got the captaincy, Stu. You've already given your opinion about it, quite clear. But I think the point's been made in the chat this morning as well that, captaincy by name is one thing, but there's 2 or 3 different captains on the pitch. Nick Pope's vocal. Dan Burns vocal. Bruno, of course, has been given the captaincy. There's plenty of players out there motivating. Callum Wilson, when he's on the pitch, he's vocal. So, yeah, I can see why people think it's a bit of a risk, but I think Bruno's matured a hell of a lot, and certainly when he had to go through that whole period without getting booked, I think that was the turning point as far as his maturity was concerned.
Yeah. The 2 names there, well, if we talk about emotion, I think Shaw showed his emotion last week, didn't he? So then if we're being realistic and we get the signings we expect, I don't think Dan Burn would be in many teams many people starting 11s, but he's a fantastic squad player. He's committed. He is captain material in that way. But as I referred to before, I think you need someone who you know is going to be starting every game, so there is continuity for the players, and they all know who's the captain, not like who is it this week, or if he's in the team this week, it'll be him. Dan Burn's a natural leader anyway, and to be fair, if he was called Daniel Burnez, people will be raving about him because his performances have been outstanding since he's moved into centre half. But again, if we're looking to upgrade Shaw with Gay, then long-term Botman comes back, and this is what we've got to do. There's no, it's not saying anything bad about the players in that position, but by bringing better ones in, we as a team will get better. And that's what we have to aim for. You can't have people moaning that we're not winning anything or capable of winning anything and then complaining when we upgrade players. That's what you have to do. And the thing with the fanzine, I think you've set the bar too low, Steve, at 200. I think we should push it for 500 and make as much money as we can for the charity.
Yeah, I am being optimistic, really. It'd be nice to get that, and it'd be great. Let's hit the 200 mark first and see where we'll go. But yeah, I fully agree. We can make as much money for the fanzine as for the charity as possible by people buying the fanzine. That would be great. So yeah, please do. Jules in the chat, if you want to subscribe, put an article in, please do. It would be great. Fantastic. Get yourself involved. We need some female contributors to the fanzine. Mozza. I'm sure you'd be up for doing stuff. Barry sent a question for you, Mitch. I just want to get that before I lose it. He says, Mitch, medically, will the surgery that Wilson had make him less prone to picking up injuries, do you think? I'd love to see Wilson play 25 plus games a season.
Oh, well, when it was revealed he was going for surgery, that was one of the things I suggested had the new performance director looked at his injury history and gone into what associated conditions create an injury history like that. And was that surgery done? Because it come out of the blue. You see all the pictures. He's been training and he's been, he looked ripped and he looked fit and he was skipping and he was doing all sorts, But then all of a sudden he's off for back surgery. So maybe there is something that they've identified that could be the root cause of some of the soft tissue injuries he gets with his hamstrings and groin. And yeah, if that then secures 25 plus games with him in the squad, I'd be delighted. But that's kind of what we're saying in the performance director for, I would hope.
Mm-hmm. Another one from Suki. He says, Mitch, with the type of injury Botman sustained and as a result needing surgery, do you think he could be back sooner than November, and would you risk it?
Risk it, no. Do not play games with ACLs. Because the risk of them going again, and then the recovery time's even longer for one done a second time. I was surprised to see him doing ball work, actually. Because the last I heard about people with ACLs, when they should do any ball work, shouldn't be until after 6 months. But he looks like he's recovering well. I believe there's a slight difference in the type of surgery he had to the type of surgery that the cells had. And that might make a difference in why one seems to be coming back quicker than the other. Because there is a difference in the recovery time with the two types of surgery. But if there's a risk associated with it, he needs protecting, and he's shown needs protected from himself. If the difference is 4 weeks between him coming back and being an absolute beast for the rest of the season and on, or it goes again quickly and we lose him for another year, I know what the answer is. And we can't, like I've said, when I speak to Jesse Morse, is the words that I trust. And when he talks about dealing with professional athletes, he talks about them being such different beasts that they will play through things that would have you or I totally crippled. That levels of pain tolerance are higher. Their ability to play through pain is better. He's had NFL running backs come to him with basically one ligament holding their entire knee together, telling them that they're fit to play. And he says, yeah, and the minute you get a hard tackle, that knee's basically being hung together by your skin. And they'll still say to him, but I can play. And I think we've had a bit of that with Botman. And so he needs, if anything, protected from himself. So no risk taken, please. No, it's not worth it.
He's not on the Sambucas. I think you're on the Jaegers, aren't you, Stu?
Yeah, it's for medicinal purposes. I'm trying to make sure I'm all right to go and watch the football. As soon as we finish, I'm meeting a friend downstairs, and then we're going to meet Mitch an hour after that.
It's for medicinal purposes. There you go.
Yeah, I need to steady myself. What makes it bad makes it bad, as they say.
I'm not sure what a Botman is on the squad list, to be honest. It's a good question. I'm sure we can
put the list till after the transfer window.
Yeah, transfer window closes before you got to submit your final squad list. So
yeah, it's a good idea. We'll check that when it comes out.
I can answer that one as well. I think it depends, because they can resubmit it again in January anyway, or at the end of the next transfer window. So it'll be telling to see how far he is along with his injury. And you've got to agree with what Mitch is saying. He rushed himself back. He declared himself fit last season, and it wasn't the same player. So if anything, they need to give him longer than what he thinks he needs. And the hardest bit is when someone wants to play is to tell them not to.
Yeah,
and you've got to make sure he's 100% ready, because 100% Botman next to, let's say, a Gay signs, is the cornerstone of our team, and that will make, I wouldn't say impregnable, but what it will do is it'll create a defence as solid as it was 2 years ago. And then we've got a midfield three and a forward line. We genuinely are, for all the negativity, we genuinely are 2 signings away from a start 11 that's as good as anyone's in the league. It's just the squad, and the difficulty we've got is getting rid of players, because we don't have players that are lauded by other teams simply because of where we were when the new owners came in. And this is where, for me, where the club mascot, Shola Amiobi, needs to be proving his corn, because he needs to be getting these players out. We can only pick 25 players. Sorry, but that's how it is, isn't it? They need to be picking 25 players apart from the youth ones. He's lost it there, hasn't he? So
it's a long time since you've got me like that, you sod.
No, but the fact is that's he's there for sure. That's his official role, and his job is to get these players out, whether it be someone like Jamal Lewis, whether it be Fraser, or whoever. Get them out. We don't need people bringing the squad down, and they have to be in a position to say, if I'm part of this 25, it should be an honour. And imagine then, what do they do? You have to you have to train with the kids. How is that good for any young aspiring child or a young player to have someone moping around with a face like a slap backside, saying, "Oh, it's like an ex-boxer, isn't it? I used to be this, I used to be that, or I should be doing that." They need to get rid and get rid quickly. So that's just the way I see it. So it's not as easy about just the incomings, it's the outgoings. And I honestly think we're at a crossroads where I think they've got a right winger in mind, or 2. I think they can get a deal done very quickly. But the issue is, if they've got rid of Miggy now and then that deal falls through, then we're going to be very, very late. Where for me, if you get someone in, and I think you've talked about it on the Amigos, and say, right, this is our new number 1 right winger, and Jacob Murphy will be in the squad. Miggy, you might not even be in the squad. Do something about it, have a bit of professional pride. Thank you very much for all you've done, but we're going in a place where, I don't want to say you're not welcome, but we're going to a place where you're not needed. For the sake of your career, go and find somewhere else. And these hard decisions, to me, have been made, but they've got to get the players in first. And to answer a question that was on this strapline earlier on, I would choose a right winger over a centre half if we could only make 1 signing. To answer another question, I don't think I ever said we'd spend 200. I says, well, I believe we can. But the reason that all came about, to repeat myself for the 50,000th time this summer, is because it was said that we'd only spend 50 million, and I said 200. Let's see who gets closer. And I still think if we sign Gay, that's going to put us over, well over 100. Sign someone else, and I would have won a bet. But no one would take it. So everyone wants to ever criticise us, someone who wouldn't take it and do it. You know what I mean? Either take the bet or don't take the bet. I'll still have the bet on now with 5 days to go.
Happy birthday Happy birthday to Scott Saunders in the chat. Hope you have a good day, mate. 21 again. I've just posted the link for the Daily Mail thing actually in the chat. Just had a look at that, and I can confirm now after having a quick look while Stu was talking at the photograph that was the one that was circulating on WhatsApp a while back. So yeah, I do think that might well affect Newcastle United in the next week or so, shall we say. Okay, we've got about 45 minutes left. Stu's had another Jaeger bomb. Let's have the adverts 5 minutes early so Mitch can go and have one as well.
A big thanks to all our sponsors. Skips and Bins. You can find their website at skipsandbins.com. Contact us, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickys.co.uk. Email info@mrvickys.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks to United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners in 2024. Their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Just £30 per person deposit. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts. You can find them at www.media-arts.co.uk. And don't forget, we are a podcast. You can find us on iTunes or Spotify or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel grow, then hit the like button, the little thumb underneath the video, click share and share to your social media, or join the channel for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to take out a one-off payment membership, go to nufcmatters.com and hit membership. And for a £25 fee, you get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. You can also put a smartphone over the top of this QR code. It'll take you straight there. And don't forget, we also help the food bank on this channel. nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk is a website where you can make a virtual donation today.
Okay, welcome back. 733 of you watching live. Thank you very much. We never take that for granted. 417 watching on YouTube. The rest of you who are watching on Twitter, please jump over to YouTube and search NUFC Matters and hit the subscribe button. Does us a big favour. All right, we have got a few questions. One that came in earlier from Johnny says, Stu Penman mentioned a few months ago, we will soon be competing for a very small pool of top players. Have we now reached that stage? And that's why things are taking time to process. Stu?
Definitely. Yeah, I think we've all identified the two positions where we could improve to take us to that next level. And some of the names we've been linked with, would they really advance us that much? So it's not just identifying them. I mean, that's the easy part, but it's then enticing them, and you've got to have the club willing to sell them. And there is a Newcastle tax, whether we like it or not. There is a Newcastle tax, and there's a reluctance amongst especially Premier League clubs to do business with us because it's out of envy, isn't it? So it does make it more difficult. But I think from a player's perspective, there'll be a lot of players that would want to come, and whether their clubs would allow it becomes a different matter. So yeah, there's a smaller pool, and but isn't it a nice position to be in? That it's the very top players that we're looking for. We're not just looking to get anybody and hoping like we've had Vernon and Anita as we're already signing one summer and stuff like that. And then we had the Hendricks 4-page pullout in the Chronicle because that was we're signing. You know, we're now looking at elite players because we are. If we're not, we are becoming an elite club. And that's the aspirations of everyone behind the scenes. And, you know, you'll have owners will come and go, players will come and go, managers will come and go. We as fans are the ones that stay there through thick and thin. And we really are at the thick end now. You know, there's not many bad times ahead. This club will only ever get better, and the players that they bring in will only be better than what we've got. And that's, for me, it's a fantastic position for us to be in.
Yeah, would you agree, Mitch?
Absolutely. I think Eddie gave it away again, not in the most recent press conference, but a few press conferences ago, when he was talking about, you know, the players they were interested in. They wanted players that they felt improved the team and improved the squad. And that's effectively then, that's a smaller pool of players. It's not like Championship Manager where we've got everybody chucking, sign this one, look at this one, why haven't we signed this one? I suspect they have a very small list of who they feel they would want, and therefore I suspect that's why they're stuck with Gay. Because he's the one that Eddie feels will improve the squad, not just as an individual player, but could contribute to the group.
Okay, lots of questions coming in. Just trying to get another question that I wanted to ask the lads. Sean, yeah, he says, Barca have to sell to register. Would Christensen and Rafinha not be better at 70 million than one centre back at 70 million, whose name I refuse to mention anymore, Stu?
Well, we can all be football managers, but as Mitch has just said there, we've got one football manager, and if Gay's the player they've identified, it's not just for his ability on the pitch, it's what he brings off the pitch as well. And by all accounts, he's a model professional, he's an amiable type of person, and he's got a very good ceiling. He's Premier League savvy. Christensen, I can see why that link is. Rafinha, yes, we need a right winger, but someone who's playing at Barcelona, unfortunately, would see Newcastle as a step down, and that could then have their effects on attitude, if that makes sense. What we need to do is look at people who see Newcastle as a step up and want to join this group of players who are on this journey and do it together. That's the way I see it, and it doesn't mean it's the right way, but that's the way I see it. I don't think we need to be looking for people who aren't going to get in Barcelona's squad, because I genuinely think our 11 is as good, if not better, than Barcelona's. And why should we? It's not a case of helping them out, because if we sign anyone, it's to help us out. But I think there's more viable options than the two that were mentioned there.
Okay, lots of questions flying in, some which we'll get to, others which we won't, some which we can't answer, because people are asking about, you know, do we think this and do we think that with transfers? We tend not to speculate on here, so apologies if you're offended if we don't go through them.
Can I say something about in the last couple of weeks? The amount of information... No, it's quite the opposite, mate. The amount of information that's been bandied around various WhatsApp groups from various places that we've shared between in different groups. If we talked about everything we heard, would have the fan base schizophrenic. Everybody would be rocking in a corner with a blanket, sucking on their thumb. And we could sensationalise and create a castle. You can't. You've got to curate it. You've got to understand how to treat that information. What's the source said? You know, at one point there was a rumour last week that there was 4 coming in, and they were coming in by Friday, and it was like, and that was from, you know, somebody who doesn't usually sensationalise. Well, Friday's come and gone.
Yeah,
wouldn't we look stupid if we'd gone all in on that? And I think that's the thing. There's so much conjecture and rumour, and once again, the club is very, very different to what it used to be. It doesn't leak the way it used to, and a lot of things are done still very clandestine. And so sometimes I think rather than give a best guess, we're better just keep my gob shut.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing, you know, like we could go over the top. It's why this channel is set up for over 18s as well. You know, we genuinely could go all out and just try and get all the fan base on, but
I can do a good sex doll face for the thumbnail.
We've deliberately gone down this route and we'll stick to it. And it's, you know, we've got a great bunch of people in here. Don, thanks for your membership, mate. That is going to be the only membership that you're going to be able to get. I'm meeting John this week. He's had a hell of a time, and he thanks everybody for their best wishes. But I'm only going to stick to doing YouTube memberships now. The adverts will change this week, etc. But yeah, thank you for doing that. If you want to support the channel, please hit the join button. $1.99 a month. That is the way to go forward with that moving forward. Okay, there was a question which wasn't, which was one I could answer actually with regards to transfers. Yeah, it was about Alex Murphy who asked it. He basically hasn't gone to Portsmouth. He hasn't gone to Portsmouth yet. Portsmouth are claiming that there was contradicting information this week about 4 or 5 days ago saying that Portsmouth had approached Newcastle United over Alex Murphy. The last I heard on that was that there was no approach from Portsmouth, but of course that could change this week. So we'll wait and see. As I say, a lot to happen over the course of the next few days, ins and outs. John, we're gonna have a go at this. He says, John Askew says, morning everyone, lads. I can't quite put my finger on it. I might be wrong, but do you think there's something not quite right behind the scenes? Eddie did seem subdued in the press conference. So lots of people reading into what we read. I'll go first on this, and I don't often do that. I just think that there has been a hangover, and we're seeing the story break in the Daily Mail today. That's going to affect the dressing room. And you know, ultimately, there's been a decision made by Eddie Howe to give Bruno the captaincy this year. So there is a change in you know, positions, and these things happen. And if Trippier does leave, which of course we have said on here, you know, we've stuck by our guns and said we do think Trippier will leave, then it's a huge change. It's a big player going out the dressing room. It's somebody that Eddie brought in to really like kickstart Newcastle's revival, get them away from a relegation battle, and eventually get them into a cup final and get them to Europe, into the Champions League again. So, you know, it's a big change in the dressing room. So I think that's all it is. I just think that's been an issue. But if there was huge issues in the dressing room, I think we would have seen Bruno leave. I think we would have seen Isak wanting to leave. I think we would have seen Gordon wanting to leave. So I don't think there's a huge issue, Stu, at all. I just think it's typical. This is what happens at football clubs. It's what happens at your place of work. You know, the things change. Nothing stays the same. And as human beings, none of us like change at any level. But I don't think there's huge problems lying. This isn't the days of Mike Ashley.
Yeah, I don't think there's problems at all. There's two questions within that question, I suppose. One is behind the scenes, and we referenced it last week. It's now run as a professional club. And of course, there's a lot of emotional affinity for Amanda. You know, she had the smiley face. She's the one that brought PAF to the table, and she'll always have our gratitude as long as she doesn't get in a consortium by Sunderland. Then she'll always be revered on Tyneside, and rightly so. But there's moves behind the scenes to make it, and they're getting the right people in the right places, and change happens. And you know, is it taxes and death? The only two things certain in life. Change happens, but the changes have been made for the best. Now, regarding the other part of the question, for me, I know he's had your say on Friday with Eddie Howe's press conference, and it was different. And there's no doubt about it. You could see he was frustrated, but I think he was frustrated at the line of questioning more than anything else. And for that, he seems to normally come in smiling for the press conference. For me, it was more of a chore for him, because as Mitch said there, we've had different information over the last couple of weeks. One of it is deputy signing. This is when he's signing. We've had medicals booked. We've had shirt announcements and everything else. And then all of a sudden it's off. It's postponed. It's cancelled. It's not happening. And as supporters, we've just got to trust that they will get the best player and for us. And I think they will. So anyhow, he was asked the same question over and over again. He's going to be annoyed. And I looked at that and I thought, you know what, the guy is as committed as ever to managing this team, and there wasn't many questions asked about the team. It was all like gossip. You know, that's what he was answering questions on. You know, no one asked about fitness of players, availability of players. how they trained, and none of that was asked. And that's the manager's role. So when he said he's removed, some people looked at that as a negative, and like he was moaning. I thought what he was doing was a sidestep. Say, look, don't ask me. I don't think he took it as. I don't think he was having a dig at anyone. What he was saying was, for me, he was avoiding the question. Look, I can't give you the answer because I don't do that process. And he should be allowed to do what he's meant to do and what he's paid to do, and that's manage the squad of players and get the right results on the pitch. So if some of his workload's been shared around, that allows him more time to focus on what he's there for. And this is why I believe we'll have a great season. And Paul Mitchell was sought after by many top clubs in Europe. We managed to get him, so we should be grateful for it. And of course, he hasn't delivered straight away, but he's not here just for this window. He's here long term. And over the next few windows, you'll see that Newcastle will get better. And if they can't get the players they want, do we really want them just to go and sign someone just for the sake of signing someone and put them on a 5-year contract and can't get rid of them? So that's where we are. And also, if you're reading the social media or speaking to your pals, do we want to be held to ransom so that becomes the norm? Or just keep saying no to Newcastle, they'll eventually stump up. And then people complain they don't have enough money for the other position or don't have that. So there's a lot of posturing going on, I think, behind the scenes regarding this transfer. For me, it's clear that if it's Gay, he wants to come. And I think on Batman, you've got Commissioner Gordon. I think we've got Agent Gordon because they're friends. And I'm quite sure he's sold the club to Mark Gay. And for me, he wants to come and he'd be a great addition. I just think it's been played out, not from our end, but from the Palace end in the media too much. And hopefully that doesn't have an adverse effect on how people, if he does sign, how people judge him or rate him instantly. Because him as a player is conducting himself very, very well. As in, he's never said anything. He's just got on with his job. And if you've got a player who you know doesn't want to be with you, he's only going to lose value. So it is just a waiting game. And I think the closer we get the window closing, it's now who blinks first. And because we've only got the Tottenham game, even if we sign him now, realistically, would he be straight into the team? Probably not. Then we've got the international window. So the game that you're going to, Steve, the Wolves game, would probably be his debut anyway. So there's enough time where it's not as necessary. Ideally, we'd have players in at the start of May, but we're just talking about you've got to get players out first. And there isn't people banging on our door wanting to sign our top players. So what I'm saying is leave Eddie Howe alone. Stop looking for criticism where sometimes there isn't. The guy annoyed at being asked the same question 6 times.
Somebody just said, I think it was Chipper saying he feels they don't ask the right questions in the press conference. I've often said that they should really allow them to just ask one question on a particular issue. You get the answer, you move on. But that's not freedom of speech, and everybody wants to have a go and talk about different things. So
we should do with other clubs though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do with other managers.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, you're right.
It's laziness as well, though, because some people are allowed 3 questions, some 2, and some 1. That's how it goes, isn't it? And it's quite obvious that the first 2 or 3 out will answer the most pressing questions of the week. Yeah. So if you're you're going to be 8th, 9th, or 10th, why just have 1 or 2 questions? And you've got to do your research and think or expect that's going to be asked anyway. So I'm going to ask a different question. But really, you hear it. What do they want? Do they want them to react like Klopp did and start getting aggressive and being abusive towards people because I'm Jurgen Klopp, I'm the manager of Liverpool, I can? Or it's like they're trying to get a reaction out of them. Their job for me is to report on what's the goings on at the club and report on the team. As fans, that's what we want. That's what we want to hear. We want to hear that Botman is ahead of schedule. We want to hear that, I don't know, Willock is improved to the point where he's in line to start this weekend and stuff like that. we don't want to keep asking the same question about a player that he's not allowed to talk about. You know, you can't turn around and say, yes, I want him, yes, I want him, yes, I want him. So why keep asking the same question? So that's why I think the term, he was bristling, wasn't he? You could see what you wanted to snap.
Of course he was, and then getting asked that question about Tonali by Louise Taylor, which Les has mentioned, was antagonistic. Yeah, it was.
It was an unprofessional, stupid question regarding.
First time she's done it.
No, but sometimes, let's be honest, she's a woman in a male-orientated industry, so she has to stand out. And I understand why she asked some of the questions, but this is the same woman who was asking questions about his piano playing and stuff like that. What relevance is that to any of us? You know,
what music he listens to? You know, we found out he listens to Aha. You know,
I've probably contradict myself there, where you're going to think out the box and ask different questions, but make them relevant. You know, and let's not just criticize Louise Taylor, because there's other journalists that, for me, they're not thinking for themselves. They're just asking simple questions that have already been asked, you know, and that's not doing your job properly. You know, have a list of questions, have 10 written down and scratch them off when they've been asked, but make sure the questions are relevant to what we're talking about. So we don't want to start a witch hunt about Louise Taylor, because then we'll get done for being sexist, or be done for being a Macam. If it was a man asking the same stupid questions, they would get the same answers. So if you want equal rights, if you want to be lauded for doing well, you have to accept the criticism. As I say, if you take the claps, you've got to take the slaps. So if you're asking stupid questions, you know, I think he handles them quite well. I mean, there's been a couple of occasions he's actually just laughed without even intentionally. He's just laughed. But
Luke Edwards' little jibe about the England job as well. I mean, he probably did it in fun, but you know, it wasn't the press conference to do it, because Eddie was just like.
Luke's a mischief maker and always has been since he worked on the Journal. He's a working ticket, and he almost gets a kick out of it sometimes. And he's also very good at it. He and I went toe to toe in the early days at Tinternet, when I did something for another fanzine where I looked at the press every week. And I actually got called out in his ratings in the Journal a couple of times, because I found a way equally to get back under his skin. He's actually got some good journalistic chops, and sometimes he actually has the good information, but then he dresses it up in some bloody strange ways just to get a rise.
Yeah, he's good at that.
And there's no situation with Palace, with Gay. What Parish has been trying to do is what West Ham, where'd that come from? Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea have always been good at curating the press. Except it's backfired on him. It's got out of control because he thought he could control it and he couldn't. You know, you look at something recently that's happened. Liverpool has sold a player who's never kicked the ball for the club to Brentford for 25 million. Where was the uproar questioning the fee?
Yeah.
When we sell Anderson and Minty, and everybody wants to know why they're worth that much.
Yeah.
You know, that's curated press. Ratcliffe's been doing it with Man United recently. You know, poor us, we need a new stadium and want the taxpayer to pay for it. And it's terrible. And the manager, and he's got a terrible injury record, and that injury record's just continuing this season. When did we get that grace off the national press last year? Never. But I think that's genuinely what Parish has been trying to do, thinking he could curate the media. And what he's done is created a bloody circus.
Yeah, certainly has. Ronnie, good morning. Good to see you in the chat, mate. He says, I think the dynamics have changed since Amanda Meardad left. Something doesn't
we talked about on Friday. Something changed in June.
Yeah.
We don't know what that something was. We can guess, we can speculate. But something definitely changed, and I think it has had an effect in terms of hamstringing us a little bit into this window, the hangover from that.
Yeah, definitely. Morning, everyone. Thanks, Mitch. I've spent 90 quid on new trainers, says Spenny.
They have this terrible effect on people.
Lots of people asking about the right wing position at Newcastle. Do you have an idea on the right wing as we are looking at? If so, Is it someone for the fans to get excited about, says Sutty? We've had so many on this right wing situation. The centre half thing, I think, is starting to get people so sick that they've moved on to the right wing. I mean, names, speculation. If you had to choose, Simon says, would you sign a right centre back or a right winger if you could only sign one? That's slightly different. Emmett says, is it likely if we go for a right winger, would we approach Chelsea for Majuki? I heard his name mentioned recently. And then a different question on the right wing. John Askew says, are Barnes and Willock better options than Murphy and Mickey? Obviously involves the right wing. Also linked with Craig Hope linking this with Simicon, 60 million release clause. He says, I'd do it. We could buy in Buemo as well. I mean, broadening that out a little bit, Stu, and rather than go down the speculation alleyway, Chelsea obviously have players to get off their books. Is Chelsea potentially a shopping ground for Newcastle in the final week of the transfer window?
If they've got players that would improve us, yes, and they've got many players, so it's quite positive. That's something to look at, because they'll be willing sellers. I think that we won't be the only club looking at them. The question regarding players, there was a player mentioned earlier in the window, and I think someone mentioned it in the chat before as well, that if anyhow had his choice, he'd have Jared Bowen on the right. For someone who, he's a willing worker, and he knows where the goal is, and he's unselfish, and he would fit what we have. Whether West Ham would be willing to sell him or not. Now, bear in mind, they've spent a lot of money. They might need to balance the books somehow, but whether they'll be willing to sell him or not is a different matter. So they have lists. We know they've got lists. They'll have identified 4 to 5 players for each position that they're going for. And then it's just making sure each one person on that list would benefit us. If Jared Bowen was number one, the name just mentioned there, Mbemo from Brentford, I think he'd be ideal. I genuinely think he'd be fantastic for us. But then you've got Brentford with the new striker they've just signed being injured. Looks like Tony's leaving. Would they really sell him this late in the window? So that's where we're at. It's all up in the air. But to answer the question, if I had to choose one, I would choose a right winger over a centre half. If I had to choose one, but I think we'll get both.
Mitch, if you had to choose one.
Well, my problem last season was not scoring goals, it was conceding them.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'd go the other way, and it's centre half. Based on that. Who we're going for, don't know. I think Madueke is definitely one in mind. He's just got himself into big bother with the Chelsea today on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen.
No.
He posted everything about this place is shit with a location tag of Wolverhampton, and they're playing Wolves today. And he posted it on his non-private Instagram, not his private Instagram.
Oh, he's going to be in bother. He's in bother.
For those who have been to Wolverhampton, you can't knock his house.
I like this. I've got good mates down there. I'm going down again in a couple of weeks' time. All right.
Everything about this place is shit. But he's one that I think would have in mind. He kind of fits the right kind of profile. He's somebody Eddie could work with, somebody he could develop, and he's got a bit of Premiership experience. You look at, and as the window closes and they need to make some sales, we could make that pip squeak a little bit.
Yeah, we could do, definitely. Okay, I got about 20 minutes left before Mitch and Stu hit the bar. Dean, thank you for your membership, mate. Got that. And thanks to 3 people who've ordered this subscription to the magazine, the fanzine. We've gone over 40 subscribers now, which is great. Dave Horsburgh, thank you for parting with £20 of your money. Vincent Crockwell, thank you for chipping in as well. And one more name shout out for the fanzine, Aston Stevens. Thank you very much, all 3 of you, for supporting Dementia Matters. Great stuff. Something a bit different here. Blue Rhythm Boy says start, bench, sell Rob Lee, Bruno, and Gary Speed? Well, that's a great question, that Blue Rhythm boy. I would start Rob Lee. I would bench Gary Speed and I'd sell Bruno.
I nearly give an answer I shouldn't give, considering it's Sunday morning in the UK. So we'll go for sensible. I would start Bruno. I would bench Rob Lee and I would sell Gary Speed.
Right, okay.
And I'd start Rob Lee, bench Bruno, sell Gary Speed.
There you
Who
go.
would have a better impact as a sub? Rob Lee coming on to Bruno, and I think Rob Lee would be a better sub than Bruno.
Yeah, great stuff. Very good. I do like them every now and then, especially when these lads are hungover and on the way to another hangover. That's a good one to stick in. Ron, great question. Yeah, exactly. Ron, great question. Good to see you in the chat again as well. He says, do you think PIF and the chairman were embarrassed by the PSR palaver and Amanda and Mia Dad paid the price for it? There's something in it. There's something in it. And I think Mitch already said it, Ron, before. Something happened in June, which we can't put our finger on, and none of us have probably ever known. It'll come out in the course of time. It'll come out, no doubt about it. But it's a major upheaval. Somebody also made the point about the England manager's job being, hanging around Eddie Howe. Mitch, you look like you're going to say something, so I'll not.
Yeah, that's one possible scenario. We bounced possible scenarios around. Everything from the extreme that there was some sort of night of the long knives moment where executives within the club basically pinned everything on Amanda and Mairdad and said, right, they're the problem. This is why we've had this issue. Bang. All the way through to PIF recognising that they need to change the way that the club's run for efficiency's sakes, and that they've just simply brought forward the planned exit that was always in place anyway. I genuinely believe there's potentially a role for someone coming back in the long term, but that's a further speculation. What happened in June, I don't think we'll ever really know, but it was definitely enough to make fundamental changes to the back office of Newcastle United, and that has had a roll-on effect into the manager's dressing and into the dressing room as well.
Yeah, definitely the case. Got a few more questions. 20 minutes, just less than 20 minutes to go. Question for the lads. Food and drink package today or just the drink package?
Eating's cheating.
As my representative has already said.
Barry Hogan asked this earlier.
I'll answer the question regarding Amanda and Mira, because I thought Mitch was very diplomatic there, because we've had information from different sources that properly tally up, but the theme that we referenced earlier is we don't get the speculation. If we said it on here now on a platform like this, as you said, gets 4,000 or 5,000 people watching a week, what we've heard, it would just come across as gossip, and it's not good. But I believe genuinely, if you put all the pieces together, the picture is quite clear what has happened. But at the end of the day, I'll go back to what I said at the start. We're here to support the club, support the players on the pitch. And if they're making changes behind the scenes, we've got probably the best ownership group on the planet. And if they're making decisions, they're making for the right reasons. And that's it. Amanda and Mairdad have been fantastic for the club, but it looks like for me that they're going on to the next level. Remember, Amanda's role or her job really is to mediate, is to attract business. It's not to start doing transfer business, which she had to do. She was very hands-on and got involved. But let's get the right people in the right roles. And we talked about that in team selection, about square pegs and round holes. Now they're putting square pegs in square holes off the pitch. And we just have to be a little bit patient. And I love saying it, trust the process. And we can always look back fondly of Amanda and Mairdad's time with us. And even when we win our first trophy, there'll be a lot of people dedicating that trophy to them, because without what they did, we wouldn't be in that position to win that trophy. So I think instead of looking for scandal or speculation, we just have to accept the fact that the decisions have been made and it's for the betterment of Newcastle United.
Stucky says, Stu, you'd be great as a John Fury impersonator. You naturally sound like him. Can you say one of his typical quotes he likes to say?
No, because he likes to swear a lot, and I genuinely try not to swear when I'm on a podcast. So
There we go then. Sorry, mate. Sorry to disappoint you.
Unlike me on Friday.
Exactly, yeah, that was funny. In fact, it wasn't. It was funny. Barry says, Stu, I always love yours and Mitch's optimism. Are you disappointed with some of the owners' decisions, or do you feel we are still on target for where we are planning to go with the 5-year plan?
Good question. It depends. I think if you look at the 5 years in whole and we're in year 3, we're probably bang on schedule, but it seems to have stuttered or platformed or plateaued over this last few months. But it's very easy to kickstart it again, and I believe that we'll be in a position where I know very well how Saudis do business, especially at the top end, and they'll make sure that they'll get us to where they want to get us to. And in fear of being repetitive every week, we all watch the video where the chairman saying number 1, and that's I honestly believe we'll get there. Yes, we'd like it this season, but I think now with everyone's being brainwashed with the PSR and financial fair play, we understand why we're not where we would like us to be, and we're not where they want us to be. But if you look at the 5 years and hold on Barry's question, I think we're still ahead of schedule, but not as far ahead as we'd all like to be. But when we're talking about spending 200 million, they won't waste 200 million. But if the right player came up, we mentioned about Isaac, no one had him down, and I think they'll make a signing where we weren't expecting now. He's been played out publicly, and yes, Darren will have a night out when I'm back. Gay's been played out publicly, and that's not how we like to do business. It's not how Saudis like to do business. They like to conduct it and get it done, and that's unfortunate. But again, that's not on Mark Gay's shoulders. That's on a chap of a chairman that they've got who just wants his day in the sun. So we're in. Can we spend the money? Yes, we can. Will they waste it? No. But I still think we've got 2 big transfers to come in the next 5 days.
Dean Charlton, thank you for subscribing to the fanzine, mate. NewcastleLegends.com. Go to shop if you want to subscribe. Are we on track for the 5-year plan still? Do you think, Mitch? I can understand some people there. YI Man says, I think we'll be in our 70s when we're getting the number 1. Sadly.
We are and we're not in some ways. We've done it in a cockeyed way. If you take the seasons under their ownership and put them in another order, survive relegation, finish just outside of the European places, qualify for the Champions League and get to a cup final.
Yeah,
we'll all be sitting saying that's wonderful, steady progression. But because 2 of those years are the other way around, it doesn't feel like that. Then also, with the financial restrictions and the so-called Newcastle amendments that have been chucked at by the Premier League and the manipulation of that situation by other clubs, I think commercially we're probably behind where they would like to be. But that's not their fault. We're having to adapt to a game where it turns out nobody really knows the rules, and some people can change the rules at the will of others just when they like. And so it's that yes and no thing. Because it's a little bit cockeyed and we overachieved 1 year, it sort of doesn't feel like that kind of steady progression. But actually, we're probably, in some ways, very much on track with a 5-year plan. But I think we're being held back maybe financially a little.
Okay, bold statement coming in. The first half of the Palace game, Gay was absolutely outstanding. He genuinely reminded me of Franco Baresi. Gay's awareness and positioning was fantastic, says Davey Eddie. Look, if we get him in, it'll be an interesting addition, that one. Certainly a big one. Anthony as well had this question earlier. He said, morning all, I'm surprised we are now an elite. I'm surprised that now we are an elite club with all the executive positions filled, that we are still playing last minute jeopardy with a squad. Points are at stake. Yeah, I mean, it does feel like when we're in the transfer window, we always seem to be, just dragging our feet, Stu, going in with lower bids. But like none of us really know the full ins and outs of the transfer business. We're relying on the media and we're relying on people on social media. It's not the best guide, is it really? But none of us really know what's going on behind the scenes.
No, I think it's been quite clear they're not going to be, how should I phrase this, frivolous with the money. They want to get value for it, and behind the scenes, we'll never entirely know exactly what is being said and what is being done. But ultimately, we are progressing. And if we take out the drama off the transfer window and write down our first team 11 with everyone fit, we've got a team that's capable of getting the Champions League as it is. Have we got a squad as it is capable of getting the Champions League this season? I would say no. But with those two additions, I would say definitely yes. And that's how close we are. It's like those who play golf. There's three parts of your golf. You've got your driving, your approach, play, and your putting. And the day you get all three right, you have a great round. It might just be your knees aren't right, which affects the shot, or you've lifted your head, or the position of your feet. It just needs tweaking. We're not as far away as people want to be. And I think I said it on Wednesday on Jody See How Jody's there. It's like some of our fan base are waiting for us to fail just so they can criticise them. And that's not what supporting the club should be about. We should be in a position where we're really, really behind them. And if they're making decisions with the best intentions, and if they decide not to buy anyone this window, that doesn't mean the money wasn't there. It just means that they weren't getting the value, or the players that they wanted weren't available. And I don't want them spending 40, 50, 60, 70 million quid on a player that is a risk. And I think this is why, against their better judgment, they've stayed with Marquis, because they understand him adding to the team, to the squad, will take us to that next level. You're on mute.
Yeah, I saw that. If we sign Gahey and his first performance is on Stella, how quickly will the support turn on a Mark? It's not like that. I genuinely think the kid will do well if he does come to Newcastle.
It's not the 80s, man.
Exactly. We spent £500 million in 3 years. Ashley's total net spend in 14 years was 12 million. Some of our fans are stone Raj moaning. Ron, that's a great expression, and I'm going to pick up on Ron's other comment as well. He says, I'm still buzzing from October 2021 after the crap we've been through in the 70s and 80s. Sometimes it's a bit of perspective that needs to be given, Ron, and you're certainly right for pointing that out. Steve thinks we're bidding against ourselves for Gahey. We're not. We're bidding against an impossible club, a club trying to milk it, and a club trying to bring in new bidders. That's what they're trying to do. Steve Bennett, thanks. He says, great show as always. Going to line my stomach with milk before meeting the guys at UBA. And who's got the first round in? John Norton says, when do we know the outcome of Man City's related party transactions case? How will this affect Newcastle? John, it's $1 million question. If we knew that, we could all, things might become a little bit more obvious as well. Dean says, enjoy your peeve, lads. 3 points to Sound Show again. Thanks very much. Who is getting the first round in? Whose round is it?
It's always my round, but there's a deal on the day, Mitch, isn't it?
Aye.
They call it a brunch here, but you pay a certain amount of money, and then I think they're going to be in for a shock. You get 3.5 hours to drink as much as you can, and it'll work out an exceptional value by the time we're finished.
I did laugh when they said you can drink as much. When Julie said on the show yesterday, you can drink as much as you can. I'm thinking, does she know Stu's there?
It was very good as well, actually. It was very good. For those who haven't watched it, it's worth watching.
There'll be people wanting their photographs today and getting their autograph, I bet.
There's just messages to say, do you think it's a good idea to play it in the bar before the match starts? I says, yeah, let's get it on.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. Excellent. Just want to have a quick crack about the match then, lads. We've got Bournemouth away. What do you reckon he's going to do with the team, Stu? Obviously we know Shaw's out, so what's he going to do? Who's he going to bring in?
I think we know he's not keen on making changes, but I think the way we started the game last week merits change. But then it's, again, do you single out certain players and say, well, they didn't play well? Because I said quiet round. Say that, Spenny. Has anyone ever had on this panel? Anyone ever had a drink bought of them by Spenny?
No.
No. And he's saying I'm a comedian when we get the first round. So anyway,
you didn't see his bloody bill last night, Spenny.
Yeah, it was quite cheap. I think obviously we'll have Kraft in to replace Shaw, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hall is rotated for Lloyd Kelly. That's the way I see it.
What do you reckon then with the team selection, Mitch?
I can't disagree. I think I've got the distinct impression he's going to bring Kelly in for this game, and Kraft's the obvious replacement at right-sided centre-back.
Okay, let's have a quick prediction from you, Stu. We know Mitch had the dice and Mitch gave his prediction on Friday. I gave mine, it was 2-2. Mitch, what was your prediction?
Scruffy little horrible 1-0.
Yeah, and the dice went for a 2-1 Bournemouth win. So what's your prediction tonight, Stu?
I've got two. I've got the standard 3-1, and I've also had a bet on 2-0 in Newcastle.
Great stuff. I'm going to let you finish early, lads, because there's an important meeting at the bar for you. Fantastic stuff, as always. I am back at 1 o'clock. Well, there's not been at the match today. 1 o'clock till 2. I'm doing the Northeast Football Podcast. 3's a crowd, so I'll be having a chat with Rai and Ted. 1 till 2, and we're back with the Fans Forum 6 o'clock tomorrow. Take care, guys.
Cheers, everyone.